Now we're going to have a fun conversation about AI. I'm putting this away because we're going to be looking at things. I have to wipe my hands off again. We're going to talk about AI, which I love, and especially when it comes to ChatGPT. Now, I will tell you, there are people in the world I've discovered who really hate anything AI. They don't like AI artwork. They don't like AI chat bots like ChatGPT. And they let you know. And they will often seek you out and tell you off. And I had one person, believe it or not, who actually emailed me and called me the N-word lover, an N-lover, for celebrating my AI art on my Boles.xyz Mastodon account. So I guess that shows you the sort of person that you're dealing with online, who come and, seek you out just so they can insult you with, I guess, what they think is the worst sort of insult that they could ever hurl at a person online anonymously by calling them the N-word lover. But beyond that, I love AI. I love AI art. I love AI chat bots like ChatGPT+, but that doesn't mean that everybody does. And there are people who will love to get into an argument with you online and say that these are not people, this is not intelligence, this is all programming, it's all databases. And I say, yeah, so I know that. Why wouldn't I know that? I know that. Why are you bothering me with this? I don't care. And I read something last week about how ChatGPT is already getting started, and AI is in its infancy. So these people who are, denouncing AI, that it's immature, it is. It's immature, it's undeveloped, it's baby-like, right? It's in its infancy stage. Would you go into someone's home and make fun of a toddler for not knowing things, for having an improper data set? Yes, some people would. But most people would say, it's a baby. It's a toddler. Let's appreciate for what it already knows, what it's already been programmed and indoctrinated by its parents. 5 years, 10 years, the AI we know now is going to cripple the AI that we have right now. It's going to be that much more interesting and better. And when I say cripple, I guess I mean crush, because the AI we have now is baby-like. And in 10 years, it's going to be teenager-like, and in 20 years, it's going to be an adult, and it's going to smash everything that came before it. Look out! But I thought it was very interesting that these people had invented something called GPT radio. And GPT, artificial intelligence, chat, will pull songs from a database and play them on a radio station, right? And then they will artificially intelligence the DJ host of the radio show. They will give a personality to the person, jokes, sing songs, do the weather, all programmed into the ChatGPT AI interface. Basically creating an entire radio station that is run and hosted artificially. There's nobody in the room. The music is playing from somewhere else. All your local news and events are being spoken by a deep-voiced man and the lucid tones of a beautiful woman that you never see, because it's all invented and typed into a chat box for what you want them to say. And you can have them program it completely. And that's going to save a lot of money for radio stations and put a lot of people out of work. Because why pay a lot of money for a morning show host when you can be your own morning show host? Tell your own jokes, have your own silly banter, and no one will know the difference because the text gets translated into voice, and the rest is going to be a devastating history for all of humankind. I think it's exciting. I think it's just great. And soon you're not going to need any new movie stars because AI is going to dig up, resurrect all these old movie stars. So you're going to have new movies with Marilyn Monroe, Humphrey Bogart. Put them in new movies together. They'll be starring. They'll look exactly like the movie stars we have today. And all these young kids are going to say, oh my gosh, look at that guy named Marlon Brando. Gee, he's really good. Where'd he come from? Well, he came from the grave, resurrected by AI. And these movie producers are going to say, why should I pay, Brad Pitt $25 million? I can have the AI Brad Pitt for $10,000. And why discover new people? Who needs new talent? Let's just keep regurgitating what we already had. And if they have, some kind of personality disorder or mental condition, like, say, Michael Jackson, dig him up through AI, say, oh my gosh, we've reprogrammed him. He doesn't have all those faults he had. Now he's perfect. He's the perfect role model. Here's a Michael Jackson album starring in a new movie just for you. Going there. And we're getting there faster than we realize. So I've always had this interest in color blindness because I'm not bragging, I'm just sharing facts, wonderful color vision. And all throughout my life, I have been told by my eye doctors, you can see colors that 99.99% of the people cannot see. Differences and variations, like they'll show you a green and a blue. Is it more green or more blue? Is this green or blue? And I would always say it has slightly more green than blue. And they were all shocked because a lot of the doctors who were male couldn't tell the difference. They had to look on the back of the card. Oh, that's right. It's 98% green and 3% blue, but there is blue in it, right? You said there's blue. Yeah, there's blue. I don't see it. So the other day, I got an interesting email from a friend of mine who teaches. And when I taught, I used to use a blackboard, chalk on slate, and then they kind of moved us to a whiteboard, which was awful. But the fun thing about a whiteboard is you could use various colors of ink to make your presentation of writing on the board interesting. You use green, blue, sometimes yellow, black, all kinds of colors, purple, fun, right? And then my friend said, I was in class the other day teaching, and this guy in the back row raised his hand and said, I can't see the board. So my friend said, well, come sit up in the front. He said, no, I don't mean that. I mean, I can't see what you're writing on the board. And my friend said, are you saying you need glasses? I don't understand what you're saying. And a friend sitting next to the student said, he can't see the colors. And my friend was like, yeah. And the student, so said, yeah, I'm colorblind. I don't see red and green very well. So when you write on the board, the new vocabulary, the new idea, the new author we're reading about, and you use green, and then I guess you're highlighting it with a different color that I still can't see. When you're writing and then you stop writing, the whiteboard is still white. I don't see the color of what you're writing. Now that's mind-blowing because I taught for a lot of years and I always use different colors to try to be entertaining. And it makes me wonder, how many people did I have in my class couldn't see what I was writing because they couldn't see the color? So the solution is you use black ink. And that's what I will use from now on. My friend will use from now on. Forget the colors. Just buy a big box of black markers to write on the board so everyone can see. And I've always had this thing about color, wondering if you are a medical doctor and if you had color blindness, could you be a doctor? Because if you can't see red or green, red is blood dripping, running. Green can be the color of infection. Yellow is another colorblind color that some people have. Can you see yellow? Is yellow there? Is yellow functional? Well, if you can't see yellow, how do you know? And I mention yellow specifically because when I was a graduate student at Columbia University in the city of New York, one of the office workers, who was a friend of mine, came up and said to me, pulled me into his office and said, look, I just got this memo from the dean, and he's highlighted in yellow, highlighter, neon yellow, really important parts of this very long and intricate memo. I don't know what it says. I said, what do you mean you don't know what it says? He said, look, I'm colorblind, okay? I can't see yellow. He said, I can see there's a little bit of a haze on the page, but I'm not exactly sure what parts are important and what parts are not important. Can you read it to me? So I said, sure. So I read it to him. And there was a lot of yellow. So I read it to him, the yellow parts. He said, oh. He wrote that down. I said, give me a pen too. He gave me a pen, black pen, and I underlined and bracketed all the things that were in yellow so he could refer to it later. He said, thank you so much. I left. I thought, well, that was an interesting experience to go through life having a highlighter color blindness. So then that's when I decided, well, why don't I have some fun in learning with myself? And I'll go right to Chat GPT Plus and ask questions about color blindness that I've had all of my life, that were instigated, these new questions, by my friend and the student not being able to see the board, and my friend in graduate school who could not read the note from the dean. So my question is, how common is color blindness across the world? And ChatGPT says color blindness is a relatively common genetic condition that affects the way people perceive color. It's estimated that around 8% of men and 0.5% of women of Northern European descent are affected by some form of color blindness. However, the prevalence of color blindness varies greatly among different populations. Red-green color blindness is the most common form of the condition, affecting 6% of men and 0.4% of women. Very interesting. So, red-green. Now, it makes you wonder about stoplights. Red-green, yellow, red-green. And I've learned throughout my life that people with color blindness don't look for the color of the light. They look for the position of the light in the traffic light. Top is green, right? The middle is yellow. And so they can see if the light is on or off or not. And that gives them the context to know if they have a green light or a red light to stop. But when you're in a classroom and someone is writing on the board in green and red and highlighting and pointing and drawing arrows, you don't have a context for what you're missing. There's no light that's lighting up that clues you in. Oh, the instructor is using a red marker instead of a green marker. Yellow color blindness is much less common, affecting only a small percentage of people. So my friend at Columbia, who had, I guess, blue-yellow color blindness, is pretty rare that he couldn't see a yellow highlight. So then I asked, what is the best way to deal with color blindness when others are not aware of your perception? Now that's what I wanted, because I know I have obviously, if you look at the statistics, I've had students who are colorblind, and they never said a word to me. Now maybe I always used black ink, I don't know. But I think it's a little bit of a responsibility of the student to at least raise your hand and say, I can't see the colors green and red. Can you use a different ink, please? That's what ChatGPT says. Hey, educate others. If you feel comfortable doing so, tell them about your color blindness. Another suggestion, use alternative methods of description. Instead of relying solely on color to describe things, use other descriptive words like dark or light or striped. You can use assistive technology. Now, I've heard about this, that there are glasses you can buy that help you see the colors you can't see. There are a number of assistive technologies available that can help people with color blindness distinguish between different colors. For example, some apps and software can change the way colors are displayed on a screen and make them more distinguishable. Ask for help. As my friend in Colombia did. Don't be afraid to ask others for help when you need it, especially in situations where color is important, such as choosing clothing or picking out food or reading a memo from the dean. And be patient and understanding when dealing with others who may not know that you are colorblind. Most people are well-intentioned and may not know what you're going through. Then this was the thing that I really wanted to ask, but I had to set up ChatGPT first. What careers would disallow a person with colorblindness? I don't understand how, let's say, an eye doctor can be colorblind and do the job. Because how can you know what the colors of the eye that you are seeing are if you cannot see, let's say, the colors red or green? Well, ChatGPT says, well, you might not want to be an artist or a graphic designer. You might not want to be a photographer because they need to be able to capture and reproduce things in images. A traffic controller or air traffic controller. Those jobs require the ability to distinguish between different colored signals and lights. Now, that's very interesting, too, because I did not know the one job that a disabled person who cannot hear, a deaf person, the one job you cannot have in the entire world that you are banned from having is being an airline pilot and probably working traffic control. Because if you cannot hear on the radio what's being said between you and the tower speaking to you and you declaring an emergency, if you can't talk to them using your voice and being able to hear what they say back, you cannot have that job. It seems discriminatory, but I guess it's a safety issue. Electricians should not be colorblind because you have to distinguish between different colored wires and cables. Pilots, here we go, need to be able to distinguish between different colored instruments and lights. So colorblind, deaf, you're out in the airline industry. Now, I thought it was interesting that it didn't talk about medical doctors. So I asked, are medical doctors allowed to be colorblind? How would they perceive blood infections if they cannot distinguish the colors? And so, this is what ChatGPT said. Yes, medical doctors can be colorblind, but it may affect their ability to diagnose and treat certain conditions that require the ability to accurately perceive color. For example, medical doctors need to be able to distinguish between different colors in medical images and diagnostic tests, such as X-rays and CT scans and MRI scans, which can provide important information about a patient's health. They also need to be able to identify different colored rashes, right? Bruises. The bruisings sometimes is green and yellow, and it's the progression of the bruise. And other skin conditions which can indicate underlying health problems. Now, regarding blood, color blindness may make it difficult for a medical doctor to accurately perceive changes in skin color or detect bruising, which can be important indicators of internal bleeding or other health problems. However, there are alternative diagnostic tools and techniques that medical doctors can use to compensate for color blindness, such as ultrasound and other imaging tests. And I'm sure there's a lot of help there for doctors. Context is everything, so if the computer says this is yellow, it doesn't have to just show yellow. It can also, give you a little printout on the screen that says this is yellow. Additionally, medical schools and hospitals often have programs in place to accommodate individuals with colorblindness, such as providing specialized training, tools, and technologies that can help them perform their job effectively. So that's a fascinating conversation, both in real life, in artificial time. Colorblindness is here, it's with us. A lot of people don't seem to want to talk about it too much because you don't hear about it a lot. But for those who have to, live and survive in a world full of different colors, it can be a trying and interesting thing to try to cope with, overcome, and perhaps solve through